I'm broadcasting from our affiliate in Alexandria, Virginia. I was in the Senate building today for a hearing on debanking, and Elizabeth Warren sits on the banking committee. It's chaired by Senator Tim Scott. And the difference is that we were there, meaning we, Old Glory Bank, were there to say that this debanking, this discrimination against conservative groups and conservative causes, the best solution is more competition, private market. If you don't want to deal with somebody, you don't want to work with somebody, you have a right not to deal with them, not to work with them. Whether or not you should apprise them of why you're terminating them is a whole other issue, because banks have been cutting people off like John Eastman and not giving him any reason as to why he's being cut off, although it's pretty obvious. So our answer is more competition. That's why we set up Old Glory Bank, so that people who had been debanked have an option. John Eastman now banks with Old Glory Bank, as do a number of other organizations that have been shut off, cut off by people like Bank of America and others, although they deny it. When Donald Trump called out Bank of America, they promptly went on X and said, we don't do this. We don't discriminate against people based on views. And you should see the responses. People went ballistic. Person after person after person had an account of when he or she was cut off. And Bank of America cut off the comments, so you couldn't comment anymore because they were getting pounded. Anyway, she sits on the committee, and she's also one of those who is very, very angry at Elon Musk, number 19.
A few months ago, Elon Musk spent $280 million to buy an election for Donald Trump. Now, Elon Musk is here to collect on his investment. He is here to seize power for himself. We are here to fight back.
I don't know whether Elon Musk spent $280 million of his own money to get Trump elected, but let's assume that he did. That's $160 million less than what Mark Zuckerberg spent in 2020 to get Joe Biden elected. Did we have a rally and call for the head of Mark Zuckerberg? Maybe we should have, but we didn't. Now, getting back to USAID for a second, it is really fascinating how all of a sudden now this agency is being defended by the lamescreen media, when in fact the lamescreen media at one time used to attack USAID. The Guardian, the AP, Washington Post, all ran stories over the years, according to American Liberty News, criticizing USAID for their role in covert operations and political subversion, as they called it. The Guardian reported, for example, that USAID attempted to infiltrate Cuba's hip-hop scene to foment anti-government sentiment. They criticized that. Washington Post ran exposés on USAID's involvement in regime change efforts in Latin America. New York Times criticized USAID activities and said that they were often aligned with intel operations, critical. So now all of a sudden the same people are criticizing Donald Trump for daring to go after USAID when they'd gone over USAID for years. I resurfaced something that came in the New York Times in the year 2020. October 28, 2020. It has to do with this conspiracy that there's a deep state that the left denies. Headline, I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration. I repeat, I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration. He was chief of staff in the Department of Homeland Security. Later on, after this was published, anonymously, by the way, he made his identity known. His name is Miles Taylor, but this was published anonymously in the New York Times, October 28, 2020. And it says, the Times has taken the rare step of publishing an anonymous op-ed essay. We have done so at the request of the author, a senior official in the Trump administration whose identity is known to us and whose job would be jeopardized by its disclosure. We believe publishing this essay anonymously is the only way to deliver an important perspective to our readers. And the article, op-ed piece, at the time published anonymously. Later on, by the way, this person quit the Department of Homeland Security and then said, okay, you can say who I am, after he left. Here's what he writes. The dilemma which Trump does not fully grasp is that many senior officials in his own administration are working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations. I know I am one of them, he says. We believe our first duty is to the country, and the president continues to act in a manner that is detrimental to the health of our republic. This is why many Trump appointees have vowed, these are Trump appointees now, not just career people. This is why many Trump appointees have vowed to do what we can to preserve our democratic institutions while thwarting Mr. Trump's more misguided impulses until he is out of office. How dare they? He writes an op-ed piece anonymously and says, we are Trump appointees and we are thwarting his agenda because we don't think it's in the best interest of the country. Were you elected? Elon Musk is an unelected billionaire who's doing no. These people were appointed by Donald Trump and have publicly said, this one anyway, that many of us are stopping his agenda because we don't think it's good for the country. Quote, the root of the problem is the president's amorality. This is why many Trump appointees have vowed to do what we can to preserve our democratic institutions while thwarting Mr. Trump's more misguided impulses until he is out of office. Little did he know, of course, Mr. Trump is going to be back in office. In addition to Trump's mass marketing of the notion that the press is the enemy of the people, Mr. Trump's impulses are generally anti-trade and anti-democratic. By the way, the press has a lower rating now than even Congress. So many people believe that the press is indeed the enemy of the people. His impulses are anti-trade. The tariffs that Trump imposed on China were not only continued by the Biden administration, they were expanded. This gentleman continues. Trump has had some successes. Quote, but these successes have come despite, not because of, the president's leadership style, which is impetuous, adversarial, petty, and ineffective. And this guy is a Trump appointee. Why don't you just quit? Why don't you just say when you were appointed, you know, I don't want to do it. Instead, you accepted the appointment and then vowed to stop the president's agenda because you didn't like it. From the White House, he writes, to executive branch departments and agencies, senior officials will privately admit their daily disbelief at the commander-in-chief's comments and actions. Most are working to insulate their operations from his whims. Meetings with Trump veer off topic and off the rails. He engages in repetitive rants, and his impulses result in half-baked, ill-informed, and occasionally reckless decisions that have to be walked back. Low inflation, no new wars, gas prices 50% lower than what they are right now, no disastrous pullout from Afghanistan. He got the NATO countries to pony up more money. Not too shabby, and that is why he's back in office, because now Americans have a renewed appreciation for what this guy considered to be half-banked, impetuous ideas. How dare he?
Thanks for watching these clips from The Larry Elder Show. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a moment. More thought-provoking discussions are just a click away, so stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next one.